Hey friends, thanks for clicking on this video. I'd like to welcome all the new subscribers. I'd like to thank you friends for liking and also for your comments that you've been leaving in the comment section of these videos. Very much welcomed and appreciated. This particular video here, I want to talk a little bit about curly maple. And yes, I've been buckskinning for decades and I understand the whole concept of faking curly maple, with inking and things of that nature. I've read every article that Mike Nesbitt in Muzzleloader magazine wrote regarding inking a maple stock. Also saw the video that Ethan with the channel I Love Muzzleloading with his build on his Grimmer Hawken, him actually inking the stock. And over the years, there's been a bunch of different methods that buckskinners have tried to bring out that curly maple. And what I'm going to do right here is just show you my method and explain to you why I like doing it. Now, bear in mind, over the years, some guy wrote using roofing tar, thinning it way down, and that'll bring out the curly in your curly maple. And I understand the whole nitrating process and everything like that. But for me, I favor any color contrast, as you probably recognized in that restoration of that Cabela's Hawken, with the bluing of the sights, the plum browning of the barrel, and leaving that rib blued. I tend to favor that. And the reason why I choose to do my curly maple in the way that I do it is because I like that color contrast. And the reason why I'm doing this right now is because with that CVA Kentucky rifle, it does have a maple stock. But like a lot of us, we like the curly maple. So let me show you something that I stumbled upon actually while watching Ethan's video with him inking the stock, because in my recommended list another feller did a guitar in a fake curly maple application, and I really liked what he did. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the before on the CVA Kentucky rifle, and then I'm going to show you my squirrel gun, my 36 caliber, and then I'm going to show you a knife handle and the grips that I did on my GSG 1911-22. So let me get repositioned here. For the next few moments, everything's going to be done with the camera held in my hand, so if it seems a little shaky, that's me. So please bear with it. And I do have a piece of curly maple already sanded down to where I'm going to apply what I normally apply to achieve my desired results regarding curly maple. And I'll let you know what that product is when I get to that point. Stay tuned. So, I don't know how well the camera can pick this up, but I can see it with my eye. And even though there is some sort of stain on this stock, I can identify this being curly maple with what I see right in through here. Okay, that's very indicative of curly maple. And obviously I have some time to decide what to do with this. I am planning on refinishing it. There's some things that I have to address, like the buttstock is loose, right here. But the screw is loose also. And looking at this rifle a little closer, at this point I do not believe that I have enough wood to sand everything down and start afresh. So I'll probably have to use some sort of finish remover, probably what I've used in the past, to remove what is on this wood. Now, let me get to my little 36 caliber squirrel gun. So hopefully, with the sun reflecting off of this tiger stripe, on this side of the camera I can't tell too well because I do have some glare. But I did this myself with the process that I'm about to demonstrate in just a few moments. And this process really brought that curly maple to life. I'm going to try to maneuver the stock different directions, how it try to get it to reflect off the sunlight, and I think you can kind of appreciate right here just how well this process that I've used brought out this curly maple. Okay, here's one of my knives that I hand forge, obviously from a file, but once again, curly maple, and with the same process that I'm about to show you, I achieved the results that I like. And as I mentioned before, it's because I like having the curl darker than the main body of the walnut, and that's what I'm able to achieve with this process. Okay, so there's the grips I made for my GSG 1911-22. Once again, it's curly maple, and you can see where the curl is much darker than the main body of the maple. And as previously stated, I really favor that as opposed to having the main body of the maple dark also. So let me show you how I achieve this. Alright, here's my test piece of curly maple. I'm only going to do this edge right here. I have sanded it to 220, and then I went back through with a piece of 4-aught steel wool and burnished it. What I use is Old English scratch cover. Let me show you how this works. Now this bottle is all about empty, but let me just show you and demonstrate how this works. Obviously, you take a rag, put a bunch on the rag, and then you work it in to the curly maple. And I just work it in until I get the desired color. See, that's the first application. It's actually bringing some of that curl out, but for me, the curl is probably not dark enough at this point. So, another application. And in the past, I've even done this. And just let that soak in. In editing this, it dawned on me that I forgot to mention, when it comes to maple, the reason why it's so difficult to stain maple is because there's no pores. It's what we call diffused pores. When you look at this particular maple, the only reason why the curly maple is coming up is because the grain structure has actually changed, and that's why you can get a stain or nitrating it to help bring out the curl. In the cabinet business, this type of wood would have been thrown away, and that's why I actually have a large supply of curly maple. But there again, a lot of your cabinets with maple are just left with a clear coat, let the wood naturally show the wood, and or they'll actually paint maple. When it comes to oak, obviously we can see the grain, and if you look at oak close enough, you can see the pores. Same holds true with walnut. Even though you can see all the grain, but if you look at it, you can see the pores. When it comes to maple, and you can usually see the end, the end of the maple, and look at the end of it and see there are no pores. So when you try to stain maple, that's why it's very difficult for maple to take a stain. And as I'm demonstrating, this scratch cover, in my opinion, does a good enough job in bringing out the curly maple. Now, while that's doing its thing, I'll talk a little bit about what I saw that fellow do with his guitar. He actually took some wire, really malleable wire, and he wrapped the entire neck of the guitar with wire and the body. And when he got to the point that he thought he was going to get his desired result, he went back through with a torch and applied heat to the maple. And the wire protected the torch from burning the maple, and he ended up with a very, very good looking fake curly maple. Now, as I'm doing this right here, I have some wire. It's actually copper telephone wire. I've already taken it out of the plastic protecting sheath, I should say, and I'm actually in the process of wrapping it back together. This is actually pear wire. If I elect to do it on that CVA rifle, I will probably go to a hobby store and get something maybe a little bit thicker. But this is just a demonstration only to see if by using the wire and the torch method, if we can mimic curly maple without having to ink it on. So anyhow, that's what I have right there for the time being. If I wanted a much darker application, then I would just keep applying the scratch cover until I get the darker curl that somebody might desire. But for me, like I said, I actually kind of like this because when it reflects in the sunlight, you can really see a contrast in what is the curly maple and what would be just the maple itself. Alright, so let me finish wrapping or twisting that wire, that copper wire, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap it on a piece of test board, and then I'm going to put the torch to it. I'll record all of that so you can kind of get a feeling for what we're trying to accomplish. Okay, I kind of given up on rewrapping the wire together, so I just went ahead and I'm going to try to run the two as tightly as I can and just create the wraps. And from what I understand is you want to wrap it tight. So that's why it was recommended on the guy's YouTube channel is to get a fairly thin but strong wire. Now I know copper wire is not very strong in itself, but I'm going to go ahead and try to mimic it and see what we got. And obviously you don't want to be, you know, systematic with everything. Maybe spread out your curl a little bit, and there again it's up to what you prefer. And for me, this is just an experiment. I don't know how this is going to turn out with me doing it, but we'll all see it together as an end result. And I'm just kind of going willy-nilly with it. I'm not trying to create a systematic pattern here. And the one thing that I saw the one guy do is once he got everything done, he kind of went back through and kind of closed up some of his wire, because obviously what's going to be bare is what the torch is going to scorch. So just kind of move it the way you kind of desire it. Or at least that's what I'm doing for right now. Like I said, I'm not sure how this is all going to turn out because this is just an experimentation for me. And I can kind of see, looking at it right now, that twisting the wire probably would have been the better way of going, because just holding the two wires and wrapping it together, I can see where they're wanting to open up a little bit. But once again, this is just an experiment. I'm just moving it back and forth and watching the wood change color. I don't think I would concentrate too much of the flame in one spot at a time. I think I'm running out of propane here. I hope the camera's kind of picking some of this up. I know the angle is not quite perfect yet for the camera. And obviously, before I elect to do this on that gun stock, I'm going to practice several times to really get the technique down. Let's see, a little bit more into here. Alright, I'll let that cool down for a little bit, and we'll see what we have as a result. Well, taking the wire off, and from my perspective, kind of not half bad looking. I'm going to go through real quick and buff it up with some steel wool and see if it changes anything or if it enhances it or anything like that. Well, looks pretty good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go get some of my Watco penetrating oil, and we'll see what that looks like once it's got a coat of oil on it. Okay, for this application, I'm just going to use my natural Watco Danish oil and a dirty rag. Like I said, I'm just experimenting here to see if this is something I might want to do on that stock, on that CVA Kentucky rifle. Well, that's not looking half bad, if you do ask my opinion. And once again, I'm sure by changing the spacing of the wire and things like that, you're going to get a different result. And also the amount of heat will also change the result. In fact, probably what I should have done before putting the oil on it, and I'll just go ahead and do that now for the sake of argument, just sand it a little bit and see what happens. This is just 220. And I know I got to get through that oil first. It looks like the scorching of the heat is actually darkening everything up around it, but that could just be an optical illusion. I'm going to go back through real quick and clean it up with some acetone and see what we get with that. Well, obviously some of that doesn't look half bad. And bear in mind, if I elect to do this, obviously I'm only going to get one shot at it. So that's why I'm going to spend some time deciding if I want to do it or not and practicing with a different wire to see if the desired results are actually better. But all in all, guys, that's not half bad. You put some oil on that, maybe a top coat, maybe even some beeswax melted on top of that. That would look pretty darn good in my opinion. So anyhow, thanks for watching, and I hope maybe one of you guys, or some of you guys, will actually experiment yourself and see if you can get a better result. Thanks for watching, and to answer your question real quick, yes, I should be out shooting my guns right now, but since the wind's not blowing across the face of the camera, I think I'm better off recording this for y'all. So have a great day. Bye.